Hello and welcome to another episode of Rosegun's Days. I don't have anything else prepared for my intro, which was not the best idea because now I just have to ramble to fill the time to make it seem more natural, I guess, rather than just, you know, hello and welcome and going straight into the content warning. Why don't we just go straight into the content warning? Oh my goodness. It's weird doing these, like, just by my lonesome, not live. It works out so much better for my schedule. It really does, and it gives me a lot more time to just record these in bits, basically. Which is much better for me, really. Much more practical. But it does leave me with a lot less to say during the intro, during the outro, that kind of thing. So it's weird timing-wise. It's a lot to get used to, I'll be honest. I should probably just prepare better. But we both know that I won't. I won't. So take it or leave it. This is all you're getting, I'm sorry. I'll do better in the future, I swear. I can't promise that, actually. Don't hold me to that. Because I might not do better in the future. Yeah, we'll never know. We will know in the future. So, yeah. I will try. I will try. Anyway, content warning for this series, this episode. It is not showing up despite... Can we try that again? What? Wow. Okay. I like having it on the screen, you know, see, I like having it on the screen. Because it is like an ongoing warning, because I don't know what's gonna happen. I have never read the story before. I can't tell you in advance what's gonna happen beyond these sort of broad, vague warnings, so it's good to have them on screen as like a little reminder. If there is a need for more specific warnings than these, they will be in the description, and I will like cut away right now. Why did I wait as if I was gonna say something? I can just cut. I will cut away and just bump it in there. If there's no need, then there will be an awkward silence instead, so enjoy that. Because I'm not gonna, yeah. We're very professional here on this channel. Very, very professional. Many years of experience. I hate that that's true, and I've learned nothing from my time streaming and doing YouTube shit. And yeah, anyway. Here's your actual content warning, the more general one. For this series, and likely this, well, some of it likely this episode, probably not all of it, but again, I won't know until I play it. I won't know until I read it. It's this is just so that you know what you're getting into. So, warning 4. Violence, gun violence, racism, sexual content including references to assault, misogyny, alcohol abuse, characters dealing with trauma, depression, other mental health issues, and there will also be mentions of human trafficking. And hopefully nothing else. But if there is more stuff, you'll already know about it, because I will have already cut away to that. So you are more informed than I am right now. Okay. Now before we kick things off, let me just check the date on that. There we go, that's my last save. Beautiful. Okay. It is time for our recap, which I do prepare those in advance, so I can just read the thing that I wrote down. Like a real pro. Okay, so last episode, the Wandering Dogs are called into Rose's office where they meet Meiju. He explains in full where Zell came from, how she ended up becoming an assassin. Basically, he rolls out the entire tragic backstory. Of course, as a result, the kids are very regretful about the way they reacted after they found out about Zell attempting, but not really because she changed her mind, but attempting to assassinate Rose. Thankfully, Major reveals through Stella where Zell is hiding out, which gives the kids a chance to meet up with her and apologize. They're all, teary-eyed, sad. They tell her, we should have trusted you more, and Zell is essentially tells them, like, well, I mean, I did some horrible things, so I get it. Like, she's not really having it, really. She basically agrees with them that they shouldn't have trusted her, but the other three kids are all like, no, you had her reasons, we understand. While this conversation is happening, the group is interrupted by Xiaolan and Meiju, and at this point, the last job that Meiju mentioned is revealed. He wants Zell to rescue her father. Since this would be a huge embarrassment and failure of Meng's faction, his faction in the GDS. So for him, for Meiju, it would be great if Zell saves her father. It would be ideal, because he gets basically everything he wants out of it. The faction fails, his deal with Wang is, you convert to my side. It's a win-win. And for Zell, if she accepts Meiju's help, that would greatly increase her chance of success, because she barely even knows where her dad is right now. Having to do this all by herself, she's probably going to fail. So she needs all the help she can get. Still, she isn't sure if she should take this offer or not. At the same time, she kind of has to. She doesn't really have a choice. Because, yeah, she knows a lot about the GDS stuff. Major can't exactly let her walk out of there in one piece, because she might get caught by the other faction, and, she might accidentally or through nefarious means reveal what Major's planning. Still, after some back and forth and Xiaolan's assurance that Major can be trusted, Zell and the Wandering Dogs take on the job, knowingly, willingly. And then, they get ready to plan. And that's where we left off. Pretty much. Exactly at that point. And with that, we continue. Beyond the window was the inky blackness of night. However, there were dazzling, dancing jewels scattered about. The nighttime scenery, illuminated by gorgeous Chinese-style lighting, might in itself be considered a form of Chinese art. I completely forgot the voice that I was doing for one. It goes kind of... I think I remember. Been a while. I think we haven't seen him in like 2 episodes. Which for me is, I think 2 months ago. It's been, yeah. It's been a while. Excuse me. You see, I think of this night view as the accumulated art of my people. think it's part of the soul of your people, with prosperity and countless personalities mixed together. And the night view of the American areas in City 23 is filled with their soul. Of course, I am aware that the Japanese soul exists in 1-liter glass bottles. Ouch. I was just gonna say, yeah, that's harsh, all things considered. As to all that's been going on, I'm so very sorry. I heard you were trying to make soy sauce popular, Rosetown. I just wanted to support you. Oh, I really must apologize. I was only trying to help. Wang spoke casually, as though trying to smooth things over without a hint of malice. However, if there is no universal truth in war, and only the results written about are truth, then the truth in this matter was clear. Wang-san, let's do away with this farce. You sure? I sort of like this tone, though. Okay. Let's both get back to work. Thanks. It came out way softer than she would have said it, but let's roll on. The joviality vanished from Wang's face, and the dignity and calm of a powerful leader returned. The pair returned to their table and sat down. Their soup was now cold, and the delicious food adorning their table felt plain somehow. Is this your message to us, in response to us not showing you respect? What do you think? Did you get what we're trying to convey? I do hope your understanding goes beyond mere anger at us for getting in the way of your soy sauce business. It does. I see. Well, that's good. Explaining things to fools is the one thing I'm bad at. This is our power. It is because we have respect for Japanese culture and lifestyles that you are able to live as you do. In the end, hegemonism is what rules in this world. I forgot how to pronounce that word. I hope I did it correctly. The strong swallow up the weak. As a result, their dominion expands without end. However, governing a large area is extremely difficult. Powers eventually decline and split. Like the Roman Empire? Or even ancient China? Our ancestors understood this well. If they expanded their territory too far, it would eventually become impossible to maintain. If a territory grows fast, it comes in contact with more and more neighboring countries, and it gets longer and longer borders that are subject to military tensions. To a large country like China, the individual neighboring countries are no trouble. However, they were determined at all costs to avoid trouble breaking out at multiple points at once. Some people say this is why they thought up the system of Chinese tribute. They made neighboring countries show their respect, and in exchange for which they respected their neighbors and acknowledged their culture. As a result, the two countries formed a bond of mutual respect, and military tensions relaxed considerably. It's said that Chinese return gifts were greater than what they received, that this became a financial burden for them. However, it was probably much cheaper than spending money on the fence of their immense national borders. I don't know why I made that a T sound instead of a sh. reading is hard. In other words, there was more to the Chinese system of tribute than simply demanding respect to satisfy their own conceit. It was also a security guarantee that was useful to a country with such a large territory. Let me be clear. You were only able to be Japanese as a reward for the respect you showed us. Why do you think our country, with 10 times the national strength of yours, decided not to destroy the troublesome island nation that blocks the entrance to the Pacific? Why do you think we allowed you to preserve your unique culture? It was because we believed you Japanese respected us as your cultural fathers. However, if we were mistaken in that belief, that changes everything. You mean, we'll be forced to learn the things we've taken for granted were actually gifts from you to us? Exactly. Wang smiled with an immensely calm face. It felt more cold-blooded than any expression he'd shown so far. Madam Rose, if you are not a fool, then you should already understand my power. That's right. Over the space of a year, Primavera had built a modest utopia based on mutual support between countrymen. Now, thanks to nothing more than the distribution of fake soy sauce, that utopia had struck a moral hazard, which had resulted in the city folk and businessmen being driven by commercialism. This was already beyond the scope of soy sauce culture. Chinatown's distribution network was already sinking its teeth deep into the Japanese areas, thanks to purchase of fake soy sauce. One after another, people were tossing aside Madame Rose's request that they prioritize deals with their fellow countrymen. They couldn't reject Chinese merchants with their cheap goods and massive supply for something as idealistic as mutual aid between countrymen. In distribution, the ones who monopolize and gain more control survive by kicking out the rest. Eventually, the Japanese distributors would go extinct, or else they'd transform into mere pipes into the Chinatown network. To liken this to a sick person, it was as though they had stopped their own heart and had attached their blood vessels to a mechanical heart outside their body. All of a sudden. Or perhaps Rose just hadn't known. For some time, the Japanese regions of City 23 had started relying completely on Chinatown distribution. Perhaps Rose's policy of prioritizing countrymen had just been a temporary fad. Right now, if Chinatown stopped dealing with the Japanese for just 1 week, we could throw you into the depths of chaos. With a word, the GDS could probably stop all Chinatown distributors from sending goods to City 23. In other words, the next day, all commodities could suddenly disappear from Japanese shopping centers. Even if business owners hurriedly tried to change their suppliers, there would be no one to go to. Because by that time, distribution networks run by their countrymen would have withered away. For small to medium businessmen who were barely managing to get by, it would be as terrifying as lifting their heads above the surface of the water to breathe, only to be dragged down to the bottom again. They knew the restrictions would end in a week. They might be able to withstand it. However, if it might continue for an uncertain or indefinite period, then all Japanese businessmen would be forced out of business. If that happened, the Japanese colony would go extinct. If we wanted to, we could go that far. But we don't. If that isn't because of the love we feel for Japan, our child who inherited our culture, then why would we act that way? There, Wang paused and sipped at his cold soup. However, he quickly made a face and spat it out into his handkerchief. Soup is delicious because it's hot. When it cools down, it isn't worth drinking. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's a waste to throw it away. After all, it's a collaboration between the splendid cooking techniques our people has honed over 1,000 years, and the splendid ingredients that come from your land. This soup that's made of you and us. What do you say about heating it up again? If that happens, the two of us will be able to share this deliciousness of this soup together. It sounds like a win-win, happy deal to me. Assuming we show our respect for the GDS, right? Yep. The conditions are just as I said before. Return the wages of the Japanese labor union to the level they were at until last year. And offer 30% of the special offers windows to us. And in exchange, you say you'll give us the same lifestyle we've had until now. No, I can promise an even better one than you've had before. As an area under American military jurisdiction, City 23 may be overflowing with Made in USA, but that doesn't fit the needs of the Japanese. They start driving their big cars in this cramped Tokyo and then fuss about how the streets are too narrow and must be made wider. They aren't the people who'd ever consider making the cars smaller. Westerners cannot understand Asia. That's why you can accept Made in China. We understand that you'd always take spoiled carrots with agricultural chemicals for 70 cents over fresh carrots for $1. Leave it to us. We'll offer you waves of mass-produced poison vegetables filled with residual chemicals at the incredibly cheap prices you love. Aren't you happy now? We're far too nervous to eat those ourselves. But since the Japanese prefer things that are even a cent cheaper, I'm sure they'll be happy. He was definitely mocking them, but Rose couldn't fight back. It was a perfectly fitting analogy for the Japanese, who had happily sold off the real soy sauce made by those in the soy sauce industry. Sold it off for spare change that they used to buy fake soy sauce. By now, the Japanese didn't even have a culture that paid for things according to their quality. Fools who can't understand how price matches up to worth don't deserve to buy the real thing. They happily buy cheap, inferior, mass-produced products, turning away from the real thing. Excuse me. Just because it's relatively expensive. Oh no, my voice. It's a little too early into the into the episode for this to be happening. What the fuck? Claudia May. Well, let me just testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. Claudia may have been right. Wow, it immediately came back. Ow. Let me try one more time. If a Japanese person these days was offered pig feed they could eat for $1, they would probably get excited at how cheap it was and lap it up. Has this incident left you disgusted at the Japanese true nature, Madame Rose? We are more capable of... Excuse me. I read that whole thing wrong. We are more capable than you of providing them with the lifestyle they deserve right now. The city will be filled with products and prices will drop. Since they don't think about quality, they will probably greet it with applause, saying, "This is the lifestyle I wanted." Haven't you grown tired? Can't you just leave the rest to me? If Japanese businessmen were swallowed up by cheap, mass-produced, made-in-China goods, they'd go extinct in City 23. All of their countrymen would become mere consumers who simply bought at the asking price. If that happened, they would become less and less able to disobey the GDS. Practically speaking, the city would be ruled by the GDS even more than it was now. However, if they rejected their subordination, Wang would further strengthen his economic attacks and would probably consume the whole city, not just the soy sauce. It was no longer possible to preserve the Japanese colony, and yet, if they surrendered, they would be gradually turned into pets until they died. It was exactly the same as a war. You threaten neighboring countries with military force and make them surrender. If they resist, war breaks out, and the strong devour the weak. It was the endless repeating of this activity of humanity, which led to the map of the world we see today. And even that world map isn't set in stone. Bargaining over the balance of power continues to this day. The world map we're all familiar with might not remain the same even just a decade from now. Even that island, which we learned was part of our country in school, and which was once painted the same color as our country. In just a few years, the island might be known by both the names two countries call it. By both the names two countries call it, and a few years after that, it may be painted the color of another country. I'm not trying to make a point about which country that island belongs to. The point is that, even without war, an island or two can easily change countries. Japan has only been able to remain Japan until today, because the oceans all around it have protected it from outside enemies. Now that methods of easily crossing the seas have been invented, there's absolutely no guarantee Japan will be able to remain Japan. In such an era, the Japanese, who have become a people of a nation defeated in war, may only be able to try and remain Japanese by resisting the gears of history. If matters progress at their current rate, then, even left as they are, you will be ruled by us. There are people who took the real soy sauce which you got for them after much effort and exchanged it for cheap, fake soy sauce. And it didn't even take that long. If you still want to protect them, then shouldn't you start by repairing your relations with us as quickly as possible? You may be right. Maybe the Japanese lost their identity, their desire to remain Japanese, long ago. There's a proverb stating that only when basic needs are met can people spare decorum. In other words, Unless they have a margin in their daily lives, the people has no interest in culture. Poverty brings simplicity. The poor aren't qualified to have a culture. However, there's still a chance for them to gain the necessary qualifications. If you show respect for us, you will be able to protect the Japanese communities, which are the final support for your people. For as long as we maintain our respect for you. Of course, right? The Japanese may have forgotten it, but small countries all over the world do the same. And despite the vast number of small countries in the world, they're all still able to maintain their independence. That's because their respect has been accepted by large countries, and they've been allowed to exist. That's merely something Japan will have to remember after all these centuries, including its period of isolation. It's the common sense of the world. Are you okay? You look a little pale. Oh my god, this guy. You haven't started feeling your chest hurt lately, have you? Have you? He's just casually asking her like, hey, are you gonna die from that poison we fed you yet? Yeah? You feeling a little sick from that poison that we made a teenager beat you? Yeah? By, threatening to kill her dad? Feeling a little under the weather from that poison? I hate this guy, but he's also like really fun, I'll be honest. Don't worry about it. Go back and have a nice long discussion with Richard, who Wang is still convinced, is the figurehead, I guess? Or to a degree at least. He did acknowledge Rose last time, I believe, but seems like he's not quite there yet. Yeah, he's definitely still not fully convinced that Rose is in charge, I don't think. You can't get the Primavera leaders to agree? Please come and talk to me. If you choose to be friends with us, there are ways in which we could assist you. Practically speaking, today's meeting was an ultimatum. If you don't surrender to the GDS, the city might be overwhelmed at any time. The poor Japanese couldn't fight back against overwhelming economic power and overabundant physical resources. If the act of demanding that Rose make a decision wasn't an act of mercy on their part, then what was it? Even so, Wang didn't try to rush Rose into surrendering. Surely, this was the dignity of a large country, of a king. The most Rose could do was postpone her answer further. The negotiations were already over. She was merely being asked to sign the documents of surrender. If she was concerned with what would become of her convictions after surrendering, then she ought to surrender as soon as possible. During the car ride home, the nighttime scenery was reflected in Rose's tired eyes. Nighttime scenery is the people's Nighttime scenery is a people's culture. And how could they stand against the economic power of the ones who had created such an overwhelming city? Japan had only managed to exist because it was protected by oceans. Now that people had come pouring in over the oceans, the Japanese had no way to resist. After all, for centuries, they had refused to build up the strength to resist, and even refused to strengthen their character through hard effort. Even their victories in war had been thanks to their first surprise attack and their momentum. Even if the great disaster never happened, we were a people fated to be defeated and destroyed. That's kind of pessimistic. I do kind of agree with... Well, I mean, they said it multiple times, right? The whole poverty breeds simplicity thing. I do kind of think they were too early with this plan, and people were still in the mindset of, oh no, I'm poor, I'm in trouble, we lost the war, we have to scrape everything together, you know, that kind of mindset was still there, which can... If you've ever been poor, it takes a long time to, like, for your mind to adjust to not being poor anymore once you hit that point. And it definitely takes more than a year. They were a little too quick with this one, I think. But I also get why they picked this timing. But that's definitely part of why this plan failed. Aside from the meddling, of course. But the plan being too early, in my view, made the meddling possible. So yeah, that's my take. So I would put it less on like people being weak and foolish and more, you know, a horrible thing happened to a lot of these people. All of these people. And this is the obvious result of having a horrible thing happen to you and having to mentally adjust. That's how I would put it. How weak and foolish we are. Chapter 5, The Assassin, End. Well, there were no fights in that bit, so no rank up. So we're still at 2 snakes and some wings and dragon 1948. Chapter 6. Reckless operations. That doesn't bode well. They went over a whole thing last time where they were like, okay, yeah, good planning is important. That's how you make it work. And then the first thing they show us is reckless? Excuse me? You're not supposed to be reckless, you were supposed to plan. Wow. I feel betrayed. This is the place where your father is being held. Meiju pointed at a spot on the map spread out on the table. Father is here. That's smack dab in the middle of City 22. Looks like a pretty huge building. As far as public appearances go, it is a members-only high-class restaurant. Is he just like in the place where Wong's been taking them the whole time? Oh my god. That would be where he was. Was that already mentioned? Did I forget? Well, either way, of course, it explains so much. It was Wong's prize castle, the one Rose had been invited to. This place was Wang Yuanhong's castle, his main base, and also his treasure box. Zell's father was being kept under tight guard in this massive treasure box. You say it's a restaurant as far as public appearances go, so what is it behind the scenes? It is being used as a storehouse for Wang Yuanhong's business. He has profited greatly as an agent for smuggled goods. Weapons, ammunition, drugs, and women. If it will sell for money, he doesn't care whether it's organic or inorganic.
So the restaurant part is just its public face.
The massive open area in the restaurant's main hall formed a cone going 5 floors above the ground. So, in that 5-floor section, the floors had large gaps in them, and the rooms were set up in a complicated arrangement. In practical terms, this 5-floor section is Wang Yuanhong's treasure house. The money and goods he's accumulated are kept there, along with the many treasures he's gathered.
And that's where Zell's father is too?
In this room. Meiju pointed to a spot on a diagram. It was a room in the 5th floor treasure vault. That was where Zell's father, Saijo Yukishi, was being held.
It's totally like a safe, with no windows.
The walls look thick too. Charles, can you still pick locks?
I haven't done that in forever. It depends on the type of lock too, so I can't make any promises. That GDS leader couldn't use a cheap lock to protect his prized treasure. He'll probably have to go with a frontal attack.
Of course, the key is of a special make. It is made in a design that is particularly hard to copy, and it is the only one of its kind in the world. And, of course, Wang keeps the key safe in his shirt pocket day and night, with extraordinary zeal. It was the key he had handed to Rose when showing off his trick lock. That was the master key to Wang's treasure house. In addition to the drink cabinet, the doors to all the rooms holding his treasure could only be opened with that key. That seems like a safety hazard more than anything else.
And then we've got this. Charles's fingers can manage that, no sweat. There's a chance to get close to him? I'll pull it off.
Xiaolan is saying that, if you're thinking of picking his pocket, you had best give up on it.
What do you mean? Earlier, in the street, I once saw a pickpocket go after Wang's shirt pocket and watched Wang drive the person off. So, he's really cautious? It's the key to his precious treasure after all. He might be very aware of its presence all the time.
Zell told Charles about this. Charles immediately understood that this wouldn't be an easy opponent and folded his arms. So, there exist people whom even your skills can't defeat.
Well, yeah. We always watch carefully before deciding whether a target's pickable or not. But most of the time, you get people who have no holes no matter how you work it. It happens a lot for greedy-looking miserly types.
Yes, Wang would certainly fit into that category.
Okay, got it. So, people who think about their wallets all the time don't let their wallets go unguarded. In other words, it'd be hard even for Charles to steal the key from Wang's shirt pocket. Impossible, probably. Not when the key's in his shirt pocket. And there's also that device.
What device? That foolish device of Wang Yuanhong's. On all the doors holding his treasure, Wang had attached a strange device, which made it possible to unlock them only while his clocks were chiming. It wasn't just the drink cabinet in the restaurant that did this. All the doors holding his treasure and hostages functioned the same way. What the hell? What a crazy contraption.
That's not all. The location's bad. He's being held on the 5th floor. There's even a slight commotion. We'll be trapped like rats. We've got to work quietly from start to finish. We wouldn't be able to get out alive. So,
using force won't help. For a while, they all fell silent, staring at the diagram.
let's summarize the important points. First, the key. Without this, it'll be impossible to pull off a rescue. It'll be impossible unless we have a chance to snatch the key. It's not like people can be perfect 24 hours a day. I'm sure he'll let us guard down sooner or later.
The next problem is the clock device.
Yeah. Even if we succeed in stealing the key, we won't be able to stage a rescue until the clocks chime. I'd rather not take up too much time. It doesn't take long for greedy people to notice they've been pickpocketed.
How long will it take him to notice?
Even if he doesn't notice the moment it gets pickpocketed, he'd realize his pocket feels cool just a few seconds later at worst. What the heck? Then we're stuck. Even if we snatch it, there's a chance he'll figure it out within a minute.
It'd be impossible to wait for the clocks to chime at that rate. Even though just stealing the key from one's pocket would be difficult, they then had to face the second hurdle of the clocks chiming.
And those aren't the only problems. How are we going to sneak into a members-only restaurant in the first place? Going by its layout, it's probably safe to say that it's impossible to sneak in without anyone noticing.
It's completely different from sneaking into storehouses like we've done until now.
It's a members-only restaurant, right? What if Meiju-san makes us members?
They had the backing of Meiju, a leading member within the GDS. It should have been a good idea. However, Meiju smiled grimly. So did Sound.
If it's a high-class, members-only restaurant, I'd imagine most of their customers are older and more plump than we are. It's not like we could look rich just by dressing up a little.
My apologies. I ask that you propose a different strategy. Yeah, because then it would absolutely lead back to him as well. And that's kind of like the last thing you want.
Think. So, we have 3 hurdles. First, how do we steal the key from Wang's shirt pocket?
Second, even if we steal the key, the door won't open until the clocks chime.
Third, how do we even get into the restaurant in the first place? If they spot us, we're finished. That's the middle of the enemy's nest. We won't be able to escape.
We have to work without being found out, all the way until the last second.
It sounds almost amazingly impossible. Impossible and impossible again. Still, if we want to rescue Zell's father, we have to give it a shot, right?
Before long, Wang will hear that Hotarubi failed in her assassination attempt on Mountain Rose.
There's not much time to postpone her father's rescue.
But doing it by force is out of the question. Then what should we do?
It's impossible. We could never do it with just the four of us. Succeeding in doing the impossible is what made Aniki Wayne and the others legends. I don't want to give up. I swore to be Zell's ally, and I don't want to turn back on that promise. Charles, thank you.
That's right. If it's based on a carefully laid plan, then it isn't impossible, but inevitable.
In other words, if we manage to do the impossible, we'll be legends.
Everyone. If we hadn't met Zell, we'd have died out in the alleys.
It's all thanks to Zell that we've been able to really feel that we're alive. I'll do it, no matter how reckless the plan is.
Guys, this isn't planning. This is just talking about hypothetically planning. Please come up with an actual plan, I'm gonna be real worried. We'll achieve the impossible and become legends.
And we'll save Zell's, our comrade's father.
Everyone. Thank you. This is not planning. She was fortunate to be graced with such reliable comrades.
I'm fortunate too.
Why, thank you. But the mooncake I just gave you was the last one. We've put our lives on the line. The wandering dogs have gathered. We have a map and information. But damn it, we don't have a plan. That's my point.
Shh. Be quiet.
Zella was staring at the open map. This would be her first and last chance to rescue her father. Like Oliver had said, she had comrades and maps and information. If she let this chance slip, another one would never come again.
Major-san, I have a few questions for you.
Go ahead.
What's this symbol on the plan for the building?
It indicates a place locked by the clock chiming device I described earlier.
So, this is another of Wang Yuanhong's treasure boxes?
Zell shot questions at Meiju in rapid succession. They were about all kinds of things, some apparently meaningless, and some that were surprising. However, they all became pieces that were joined, one by one, inside Zell's head. With her eyes still opened wide, Zell punched the plans. She hadn't punched it out of irritation at this impossible scheme. Some sort of miraculous plan had formed inside her head. Zell thought over and over again about whether the plan was realistic, walking around in quick circles. Oliver and the others fell silent, working hard not to interrupt Zell's thinking. Eventually, Zell stopped suddenly.
I've got it.
Oh?
Awesome, Zell! What kind of plan is it? If all of us use all our power, we have a chance. If any part of it fails in the slightest, we're all dead.
We knew that from the beginning. We're ready.
Yes. If it's a plan you made, then it's the best plan for us. We won't get scared.
So, what kind of plan is it?
We need to gather as much information as we can before I can get into the details, but to put it simply,
As Zella wrote symbols on the floor plans with a pencil, she explained her outrageous strategy. It really was outrageous. And at the same time, it would have been completely impossible for anyone but the wandering dogs. Oliver and the others were stunned. The silence was finally broken when Meiju gave a muffled laugh. Now that is interesting. Yes, it is a strategy that no one but you could accomplish.
Major-san, I'd like to ask for your support for this part here. You're the only person I can ask. Please lend us your aid.
Understood. This will be interesting. Leave it to me.
Now we just need someone to be the Lord. If we can find someone for that,
Well, what are you talking about? There's only one person who could do that.
You're the only person who could do that job. Oliver and the others grinned at each other, then looked at Zell and smiled again.
Me? How? What do you mean, how? You just need to act the part as you've laid it out.
This keeps getting more and more interesting. Shaolin, the only person who didn't understand Japanese, had no idea how this plan would work, and she cocked her head to the shot. I'm just gonna start over from the beginning. And she cocked her head to the side in confusion. She asked Meiju what sort of plan it was, but he impishly laughed and refused to tell her. Starting that day, the Wandering Dogs would bet everything on that plan. What they needed was courage and intensive training. Those were everything. And the training begins now. It's not prepared. Oh my god, I misclicked so many times. You can't see it, but I misclicked a lot. Which lowers your score. I wanna rank up, okay. I'm here to get more, aren't I?
That's weird. I'm aiming right, but it never hits.
Charles, your finger's pulling too hard. It doesn't shoot stronger just because you pull the trigger harder.
I just can't stop thinking of it that way.
The trigger has nothing to do with power. You've got to stay cool when you pull it, just like Aniki Wayne said.
And Oliver, you're wasting too much time trying to look cool when you shoot. Stop breaking your form by trying to act like a know-it-all and devote yourself to practicing the basics. If you try and shoot all weird again, I'll get angry. It's true that just holding a gun can pressure your opponent. But if they see you're unfamiliar with it, that defeats the whole purpose. For now, just quietly and faithfully practice the basics. If you do, then just holding up your gun will give you power.
With a practiced motion, Zell loaded her bullets and readied her gun with a beautiful posture that looked like a form of etiquette. The timer runs out so quickly now. It's a good sign, right? That means I'm doing good. She looks kind of like Rosa from Yurmineko in those screenshot, those little images, you know? I don't know why, but she does.
They all hit.
Sean says something in Chinese. Well done, as expected. There is that rumor of how you massacred all the leaders of an enemy organization at a dinner party with just one handgun. Otarubi, the legendary assassin.
Shh, don't say that.
I don't mind. It's just something I learned to survive. They're techniques I didn't learn willingly, but I'm grateful for them now. After all, they'll be useful for saving Father.
She's so fucking cool, though.
We better not fall behind.
Until now, I've wanted to become a cool man like Aniki Wayne, who... most uncool person on the planet.
Is that why you try so hard to look cool when you shoot?
Starting now, I won't be like that. I'd rather be a wandering dog than a cool guy. You're turning into Wayne more by the day, though. You would absolutely say that, though. Even in an attempt to be not like Wayne, he's becoming... because he's trying less to be cool, he becomes more like Wayne, who's uncool. It all makes sense. With an expression of renewed determination, Oliver held his gun with the neat posture that Zell had taught him. Gunfights are brawls, so who cares about good form? That was the assumption he had to throw away.
I'm the same. We're the 4 wandering dogs. Don't put too much...
Yeah, just gonna hit your line on that sentence.
Don't put too much force into your fingers. Don't try to shoot. Try to pickpocket the enemy with the trigger. Huh, I like the sound of that.
Hey, sure bud, whatever works for you.
I'm starting to get hooked to the feel of a gun.
I'm not. I'm off guard every time one of these pops up. The wandering dogs hadn't received permission from Wayne to carry guns. However, after careful thinking, Zell decided that they should break that rule and take guns. Of course, it wasn't to shoot with. It was to protect themselves.
Make sure you don't misunderstand, everyone. We're training so we can get used to guns, not so we can fight with them.
I know. So we can use them as a bluff if things get sticky, right?
Even as a bluff, it'd still be pretty pathetic if we don't practice.
It's the same as it has been before now. We'll sneak in and break out without anyone finding out.
Victory without pulling the trigger is the best sort of victory for us.
That's right.
Were those 2 guns there before? Did I rank up? Let's hope so. The strategy would take place in the center of enemy territory. In other words, it was like diving into the enemy's stomach. They weren't genius gunmen like the legendary Seven, including Leo. If they got into a gunfight, they would be up against many tough GDS men who had returned from the front lines. It could only possibly end with the wandering dogs riddled with holes. So, they were learning about guns to help them escape. If the worst happened, they failed in their rescue attempt, and there was a commotion. This would give them a little extra push in their escape. I forgot to turn my own audio down, and that shredded my eardrums. That was a jump scare for me. I hope it doesn't come across that way in the actual recording, because I don't want to harm your eardrums. Okay, I made a little adjustment, should be fine now. The three of them quietly continued to fire. Every now and then, a strict instruction would come flying from Zell, and the other two would listen to it meekly. This repeated over and over. I was just about to ask the same thing. Will you not practice, miss?
I tried it a bit, but it looks like guns don't suit my hands.
But you're like insanely good with a slingshot, right? So your aim should be insanely good. Oh, you're going with, okay. I was just going with a slingshot over a gun. Fair enough.
Anyway, I've got this.
Meiju and me are the same person right now. We share a brain. Oh, an amusing weapon. Oh. I was too busy ragging on her to focus. I'm sorry, Nina, I won't do it again. To be fair, a gun's probably like a lot to handle if you're used to a slingshot, because there's like recoil and stuff, and it's probably a lot more intense in that sense. I'm just assuming. I wouldn't know. Now that is a surprise. Your aim is better than those boys with their guns over there. I'm just gonna roll. Trying to think of what the inflection here would be, because this is a wild sentence.
The Chinese aren't the only ones who can perform skillful feats.
Nobody said that at any point. Okay. He was talking about your friend anyway? I don't... Okay. Okay, now I'm wondering if it's harder to aim with a slingshot than with a gun or not. Moving on. In that case, we must not be outdone. And then he says something in Chinese to Xiaolan. Xiaolan nodded silently, then walked up to the shooting booth. Xiaolan may not match up to your technique, but she does possess defensive talents of her own.
Ooh, Xiaolan-chan, guess you're pretty awesome for a shrimp.
What is up with Nina today? She didn't understand the words, but she apparently realized that she was being made fun of. Hey, what has she done to deserve that? What the fuck? Xiaolong looked irritated for a second, then removed her coat. Yes! Oh my god, it clicked off of the... Unbelievable. In my whole time playing this, I've never clicked outside the window. It's a minuscule window, by the way. It's like 800 by 600 pixels. And I just clicked right outside it because I got too excited. I'm sorry, Xiaolong. I didn't mean to make you look bad by fucking up.
Whoa, whoa! What the heck was that? What kind of self-defense art is that? The target's totally skewered, whoa!
Xiaolong says something in Chinese. She may not look it, but Xiaolong has mastered some of my assassination techniques. She could eliminate 2 or 3 men in an instant.
I better not slack off. Practice, practice.
With a look that says, don't fun of... Said? Past tense? With a look that said, don't make fun of me again, Xiaolong stuck her tongue out from behind Meiju's back. Anxious not to fall behind, Nina hurriedly started to practice with her slingshot. Meiju gazed at this amusing scene.
Meiju-san, why are they practicing with guns? It's not as though preparing at the last minute will help them.
I imagine Hotarubi knows that as well. This is probably some sort of ceremony. Surely, it is a ceremony for them to master the resolve and courage needed to train themselves for something they've never experienced. And most importantly, I doubt those vigorous boys would be satisfied going in unarmed simply because they didn't stand a chance in a fight.
I see.
Hey Zell, I wonder if Aniki Wayne and the others trained here when they were hiding in the restaurant.
I wonder. Did they, Meiju-san?
Ah, that takes me back. When Rose-san was in hiding, she polished her gun shooting skills here in order to defeat Caleb.
In other words, Wayne's on...
That came out so Dutch, I'm sorry. I need to redo that.
In other words, Wayne-san taught Madame Rose how to shoot here?
Awesome. We're training in the same place the Legendary 7 trained.
We can't lose. Let's train thoroughly here and become the Legendary 4. Whoa! We're gonna be like Aniki Wayne.
I thought Leo and Cyrus taught Rose how to shoot.
At the time, I believe Wayne was...
He was being held down by Leo and worked hard by Cyrus.
I think my rank remains unchanged. I am disappointed, but not surprised.
Listen up, Charles. This is a dummy version of the key.
It's heavy? That's a creepy key.
It is nearly the same weight and size as the key in question. A small but solid-seeming safe was set on the desk. Its design, which was more excessively ornamental than gorgeous, matched Wang's tastes well. For the purposes of this plan, Meiju had obtained a safe and key that Wang had once used. The weight of the key, its size, and the shape of the keyhole were almost exactly the same. The key had some weight to it, and if it fell, it would surely make a loud sound.
So this is what I've got to. Yep. I can't get started without your magic fingers.
Charles played with the large key on his palm, like a magician making cards dance with his fingers. It span around as he played with it skillfully, but it eventually caught on his finger and fell to the ground. That hopelessly loud thunk echoed through the underground room several times. It goes without saying that the metallic sound particular to dropped keys carries well, even in a noisy place. On top of that, the real thing would happen in a luxury restaurant. If they dropped it, there was a 100% chance of them being noticed. In other words, a 100% chance of death.
That screw up just now would have killed us all. Yep. It would have happened right after you grabbed the boss's key. You couldn't pass that off as a joke. If you can't do it, just say so. It was such an outrageous strategy from the beginning. I can't force you into such a ridiculous plan for my own father's sake.
Without speaking, Charles continued to play with the key. Then, he stuck it into the keyhole to test the feel of turning it.
I'm not scared at all. As an alley rat pickpocket, death was always right beside me.
Who would show mercy to a dirty, pickpocketing brat? They would just beat him and kick him until he died, then toss him in a garbage bin. And no one would stop them. Even if he was lucky enough to survive, if he had even broken a bone, that would be enough to finish him. After that, he'd only be able to crawl along the earth, fish through garbage bins, and weaken until he died.
That's not what's got me scared. If I screw up, my comrades will suffer. That's all.
That's all, yeah. Moving on.
If you did mess up, none of us would hate you for it. After all, if it weren't for those fingers of yours, we wouldn't have any hope in the first place. Thanks, Zell. The same goes for everyone, and for me too. In other words, we're all in this together. We're comrades, after all. No, that's not it. We're family, so we can trust each other. You may have been uneasy when you thought about comrades suffering because of your mistakes, but you've never been afraid of a comrade's mistake killing you. You're right. Now that you mention it, that's true. Well, screwing up and troubling everyone else is basically my role. I can't even imagine Oliver or Nina screwing up, much less you. I'm the one who can't imagine you failing.
Charles scratched at his head, acting embarrassed, but his expression had already grown calm.
In that case, let's talk about positioning. Yeah. Your position is right there, in front of the table.
As Charles toyed with the key, he stood facing the table with the safe on it. That was in the corner of the room. Zell ran around to the corner diagonally opposite it. The underground room was fairly large, and the distance between the two corners was about 15 meters. over there was a target as tall as her chest, covered in a blanket. Charles glanced over his shoulder at her position.
That's our target? Looks pretty far away.
Yep. This is the exact distance according to the plans.
Let's give it a shot.
Oh shit. One moment he seemed to be playing with the keyhole, and an instant later, the key suddenly and silently shot backwards from under Charles's armpit. It landed at Zell's feet, making a noisy sound. If it had landed onto the cloth on the target, it wouldn't have made a sound.
Just snatching it is no big deal.
But this is a first for me.
Throwing stuff as accurately as this... We can make up for it if your aim is slightly off, but don't count on that.
I know.
From here to there is my world.
I'll pull it off perfectly.
Once again, the thrown key landed on the floor far from the target.
So I've got to pick this up every time. It'll waste our training time. Could you get me a pile of stuff? Anything as long as it's the same weight and size?
Leave it to me. I will bring you a mountain.
So, think you can pull it off?
It had to be done with minimal movement, and in an instant, and accurately. On top of that, he had to throw it at the target with his back almost completely turned.
This is getting interesting. Let's do it.
Meiji-sama, I don't understand what sort of special training this is. I could understand pickpocketing a key, but throwing it?
You'll understand eventually, but it certainly is outrageous. Yeah, this is starting to sound like a wild plan. That was just me fixing my clothes. And celebrating mentally that I'm now, Is that a wolf? Is that a wolf? Because if I squint, it's kind of like a rat as well, and maybe also a pig or a bear. It could be any of those. But yeah, go me. I am now whatever the heck this thing is, 1948. Let's just say wolf, because that makes the most sense with the theming, right? So it's like a winged wolf in 1948. Meanwhile, Nina was in a Chinatown back alley. She'd apparently just had her slingshot band replaced with something more powerful. Nina pulled on it repeatedly, getting her hands accustomed to it.
Now this thing's got power. And it's sturdy too.
I made it specially according to your request.
That also means I'll need more power to handle it. When I pull it back with all my strength, my arm starts shaking.
Nina, how's your new slingshot?
She's a fighter, but worth breaking in.
Zell appeared on the roof of the storehouse. She was holding a bag filled with empty cans. Oh my god, we're doing a training montage for everyone. That's actually great. She lined those cans up on the edge of the roof. She was probably going to use them as targets for Nina's slingshot. Windows just asked me if I want to turn off the notifications for settings. So that's like the app settings, I guess? Which seems wild, because that seems like a pretty integral part of your computer, like if there's something wrong with your settings and I... Why are computers like this? Interrupting me. Very rude. And now I forgot if I already said the sentence, so I'm just gonna do it again. She was probably going to use them as targets for Nina's slingshot. By the way, there was a river ditch. A river ditch? A river ditch. Behind the storehouse. Missed shots wouldn't bother anyone. Thank you for reassuring us that no one's gonna get hit by this. That's actually good. Because doing this on a rooftop is kind of reckless.
I know you've got perfect aim, Nina. Still, try and see if you can do it with that slingshot, which needs more power.
Here it comes. Let's do this.
Yes, let's. Nina's skill was as impressive as ever. With a faint sound, empty cans were knocked over one after another. However, she suddenly missed a target. After that, she couldn't hit them at all anymore, and eventually, she was left panting, unable even to pull back the band.
This takes power. My arms are shaking.
Apparently, pulling back the strong band required a significant application of force. Nina's thin arms were screaming and shaking.
Think it'll be tough? We'll need a lot more power during the real thing. If you can't do it, just say so. We'll just have to think of a different plan.
You're kidding. I know how hard you worked to iron this plan out.
There could be no other plan. She could tell this was the only plan the Wandering Dogs could use to attack the GDS VIP's castle.
Just need to get used to it a bit. I've still got lots left in me, so bring on the training.
With a bold smile on her now sweating face, Nina fired off another shot. However, the shot went in entirely the wrong direction.
Let's take a quick break and get used to it with a slightly closer target.
You're joking. If I'd made that mistake during the real thing, we'd be dead. It'd be better to die from someone else's mistake, so I could say, why'd you screw that up, dumbass, in the next world? Even if we end up dead, I couldn't bear to be the one who screwed up and took everyone else with me. I can't let something like this get me down. I'd be too embarrassed to face the other two. Time to pull myself together and give it another go.
Nina's passionate flames burned away the ineptitude, the fatigue that had stopped her arm. After she wiped the sweat away, you could certainly see the blazing flames within her eyes. right now. Her physical strength was less than Charles or Oliver's, but when she had been young, boys had been no threat to her. She'd been a fearless, peerless brat girl general, leading the brats in her community. A brat general like that wouldn't work as a lady of the evening, not just because she was a woman. This right here, the trials she was going through right now, were what she wanted more than anything.
That's enough charging my spirits. Zell, line up a bunch more empty cans. I'll keep moving forward.
My voice won't. Let me do that again.
I'll keep moving forward. Time for Ninagi Nina to show her guts.
Is it weird that I feel extra pressure to do well after they have like a speech like that? Because I feel like if I then miss the targets, I'm like letting them down. Because after a speech like that, you gotta do your best, you know? She's doing her best, I should do my best too. The battle between Nina and the empty cans Zell set up on the roof continued on and on. How dexterous. So, even a child's toy can become a fearsome weapon when perfected.
I see. It's an exercise that increases her burden by putting the target in a high place.
No matter how powerfully she pulled back the band, it could never become a replacement for a handgun. However, if she used that power to throw grenades, this might make for a powerful yet accurate grenade launcher.
Damn. I see. So that's what this is.
Grenades are heavy, and their area of damage is significant. Unless they're thrown with significant force, they can be dangerous to the user. With this powerful slingshot and its powerful band, something like that might be possible. However, after seeing that key pickpocketing practice Charles had been doing, it didn't add up. Weren't they focusing on doing this secretly, since they had no chance of winning if they were discovered? But seeing Nina's full power training, this was starting to look like a strategy relying on over-the-top force.
I don't understand, Meiju-sama. Just what on earth are they planning?
That is a secret, but it certainly is outrageous. You should think it through yourself. Ooh, it's a mystery, I like that. I will also think it through myself. And, not share my, theories just yet. Because, you know, we haven't had all the pieces yet. And I'm probably wrong. And I don't want to influence it if you're guessing, like, if you're thinking it through yourself as well. Xiaonan folded her arms and puffed out her cheeks, looking displeased. Just what was this plan which even Meiju called outrageous? Oh, are they immediately revealing the plan? We'll see. I'll keep reading. That building containing the luxury restaurant was truly Wang's castle. Of course, Wang's subordinates were all veterans. Rugged men who had survived the vicious fighting against the Kwantung army. Forgot the word for army. Even though it was right there on the screen. The legendary Leo Shishigami may have managed something, but these weren't... May have managed something? But these weren't opponents who could be opposed by a few boys and girls who had never even held guns before. Their only option was to carefully hide their presences, and clean things up without raising a ruckus. As she watched the cans go flying one after another with small, satisfying sounds, Xiaolong cocked her head inquisitively. Oh, I don't think we're getting the answer. Wait. The wolf, bear, pig, rat now has glowing eyes and like a little Dragon Ball Z type charging up thingy. These emblems they crack me up. They're so funny. It was night, after the people had fallen asleep. Vehicles of a different sort than you'd usually see during the day raced down the street. It was a series of trucks. Distribution trucks. Several of them raced down the street which had grown quiet, packed with goods. This was truly distribution. Why was that so dramatic? Why was there a dramatic pause? This was how the massive quantities of materials that supported the huge metropolis of Tokyo were transported. This was hardly unusual in Chinatown, but tonight, there were more trucks going in and out than usual. Cargo was being packed into a massive storehouse. Back when Wang had purchased enough fake soy sauce to overwhelm Rose's soy sauce, there had been an incredible amount of cargo, but this was even more. It truly was violence in distribution, in quantity, in numbers, that would overwhelm City 23.
Whoa. There's so much. This is the scale of dealing with Chinatown.
No, Claudia! Why are you here? I know she said she didn't have any other choice, and I respect that, but it's still
Incredible.
Dozens of Japanese businessmen were observing this violence in numbers. Claudia was among them. That hard worker was a member of the Japanese Shop Association. Apparently, that was why she had received an invitation to this. Oh. As they watched the overwhelming amount of materials go by, Wang slowly turned to face them and spread his arms.
It isn't that surprising, is it? Haven't you ever looked at a world map? China is 25 times the size of Japan. Well, of course I'm aware that not all of the Japanese receive higher education. Jesus Christ. Comparing different areas might be difficult for you.
He was clearly mocking them. However, the businessmen were still stunned and overwhelmed by the incredible amount of goods. Pre-war Japan didn't have any world maps. It was a joke that was believed fairly often at the time. Otherwise, wouldn't it be unthinkable for Japan to declare war on America, well, when there was still no end in sight for its war on China?
Still, even if you don't understand the numbers, I'm sure you understand what you see. Your national power is hardly anything to be commented upon when compared to our large country.
They were in a war, my guy. Like, they lost the war, there was a giant disaster. I'm sorry, we spent like 2 seasons having Japan as a country has lost its power hammered in, right? And then this guy's like, haha, you don't have any power. Like, yeah, duh, they know. Calm down. To be fair, that is just his personality is like that. He can't and won't calm down. He needs to chill though. See, Claudia agrees. We can't win. Japan can't win against foreign countries. Not anymore, they can't. So close. If only you'd understood that before the war. I said the word, but I don't think my mic picked it up. But it still isn't too late. If you now understand that Japan has neighbors who are far superior to it, then you're welcome to join the cosmopolitan world. We understand what you're trying to say. You'll overwhelm everything with your quantity and prices. At the end. That's all there is to it. What's the point of in telling that to us at this point? When we're like candles about to burn out. Chinese merchants are the best in the world. Do you know why that is? It's because they can interact closely with societies from all over the world, blending in. You see, we're fellow merchants, so we ought to be getting along. However, because Rose Haibara forced her anachronistic countrymen first beliefs on you, everything's gotten messed up. Until just a few years ago, we were able to get along fine, right? I know some of you had dealings with Chinatown. When Tokyo transformed to scorched earth, we joined hands, distributed necessities to the city folk, and revived the city, did we not? At the time, I believe we had a friendship that surpassed the borders of race and nationality. I don't believe you when you say that. However, Rose took all of that away. Her dictatorship in the name of countrymen first stole the free market rights that all of you were supposed to have. Are you really okay with that? Aren't merchants the greatest realists of this era? China, America, Japan. All three countries are mixed together in this new Tokyo. That's the reality of the new Japan that's coming. All Rose Haibara did was gain some temporary support by playing to patriotic feelings of the Japanese, who were grief-stricken from losing the war. She used the excuse of countrymen first to deny reality, trying to turn back the clock to the pre-war days. But we merchants know. Those who go against the flow of time will always meet with destruction. Can't we stop playing along with the anachronistic illusion of the idealistic girl called Rose Haibara? When he called Rose a girl, the businessmen all felt as though their hearts had stopped for an instant. In the Japanese sections of City 23, she had been almost deified. Even without going that far, there had been an unspoken rule that those who disagreed with her ideals were unpatriotic. For the first time, they were made conscious of the fact. We don't think of Japan as a part of China. It's a new land, in which lives a new people and new friends. Nothing excites us more than being able to start doing business there. That's why we want to understand the supply and demand of this new land. To make new friends and start new businesses. And to not pay our employees that much, because that's the thing that's been causing all this trouble to begin with. Like, keep in mind that all of this is because they don't want to increase the wages. Just keep that in mind. Please, take another look. See this mountain of goods? No, this castle of goods. It wasn't just soy sauce. Miso, mirin, katsuobushi, niboshi, konbu, wasabi, and more and more and more. And how much of that has, like, dodgy chemicals that could potentially kill you in it? Probably all of it. Which is what you get when you cut corners on costs. At the same time, like, he kind of also has a point that blindly following Rose is probably not the best alternative. And that, you know, her being made into this, like, almost deity-like person, that's not good either. And putting it all behind, like, Rose as a person rather than an organization with a lot of people who work together is also not great. On the other hand, that's not what Rose did, you know? It was always about the organization, the family, the Primavera family. So other people have kind of fucked that up for her. Every Japanese person would gulp at those scents. It was a stack of countless good old Japanese ingredients and flavorings. Of course, just like the soy sauce, it would be pretty hard to argue that they weren't inferior. However, now that the city folk had, in fact, accepted bad, fake soy sauce, it was pretty clear that they would accept this without trouble. The city folk didn't care about details when it came to taste. They were only interested in what was cheap. And this soy sauce fever was making people hope for other things. Those many, fondly remembered ingredients, which might be called the Japanese soul itself, would surely meet with great demand among the Japanese. The real thing would be scarce and expensive, not something that could be sold to the poor. However, since these were cheap and low quality, they were within reach and could sell explosively. We are considering shipping these to all of Tokyo, with City 23 to start. Normally, we could earn more by selling it directly. However, wealth is made to be shared. So, I want to share the profit from this pile of good old Japanese ingredients. My new friends. But if we do join with you, we'll have Primavera on our case. When soy sauce started selling, rumor has it, President Tokuta joined with you. Primavera really roughed them up. That was quite a surprise for us as well. However, we did protect the president, you see. President Tokuta is my friend. I and Chinatown as well will never allow anyone to harm our friends. Also, that rumor about how the president was caught by Primavera and got taught a lesson. That's a rumor Primavera started, you know? Then it's fake. I did protect him. Protected him from Primavera. I said that if they harmed him, the GDS would pay them back in full. That's why the president is alive, argued one. They were vaguely aware that betraying the Mafia meant nothing but a death sentence. It certainly was conceivable that the president had avoided death because the GDS had protected him. However, the story wouldn't work for Primavera if it was known that they let him escape because of GDS threats, so in exchange for letting him go, they all agreed to act as though they'd threatened him. Of course, Wang had made all this up. The GDS had never applied pressure in that way. However, it made sense to the businessmen. They nodded to each other, saying, yes, that's right. President Tokuta is still in good health and doing his job, isn't he? Was he missing a finger? Did something terrible happen to someone in his family? Nothing did, right?
Madame Rose would never do something so cruel.
No. It's because I protected him. That's why he wasn't executed. See? I do protect my friends. But, I still understand how you all feel. I understand that you're afraid Primavera will do something terrible if you become my friends. So let me make you all a promise. No, not a promise. A prediction, maybe. A prediction? Rose Haibara will retire before too long. When that happens, Primavera will collapse. Those people who say strange, anachronistic things will disappear soon. How could you possibly? It's a prediction. Just a prediction. The problem is what happens next. If Primavera collapses, the swarm of thugs that remains will scatter and swagger through the city again. It'll go back to the Caleb era, where violence was rampant throughout City 23. This part isn't a prediction. It's a promise. I promise that my GDS friends and I will protect you in a way that prevents all of those thugs from laying a hand on you. By that time, the marketplace will be filled with all sorts of products thanks to our massive supply. All of my friends will deal in large quantities of those products, becoming so prosperous that they won't have time to rest. And on top of that, the thugs expelled from Primavera will be too afraid of GDS stores to lay a hand on them. In that case, what will happen to those who don't become my friends? They won't be able to get goods. They won't be able to compete on price. And on top of that, they'll be found by thugs who have nowhere else to go, and have every last drop of blood squeezed out of them. The businessmen let out groans that were almost sobs, losing their composure. They couldn't think of a reason to reject Wang's offer, despite the fact that he's actively threatening them right now. Are they? Unless they picked up on the prediction being, also a threat. And they're like, well, shit, Primavera's doomed. Better sign on to the big replacement faction. Which I kind of understand. Wang-san, No. You don't need to say anything now. I respect time above all else. I understand its value more than anyone else. So, I want to give you all some of that precious thing, time. I want you to think carefully about whose friend you should be. And when Madame Rose descends from her throne, I'd like you to give me your answer. Ooh, he's confident. Well, that's that. See you next time. Since Wang was a merchant himself, he knew merchants well. All peoples are countrymen first by default. They're naturally built to exclude foreigners. Wrenching aside those barriers and pushing inside was the first step towards bringing business to a new country. To do that, you just need to find the type of business among that people where patriotism is weakest and stick to them. And the most convenient targets for that were merchants in the realm of capitalism. What's wrong with joining forces with Chinatown? Nothing at all. In the first place, it's easier to get stuff from the Chinese. Ever since Madame Rose said to buy stuff from our countrymen, we've just gone with the flow.
In the end, that was probably done to profit businessman Madame Rose knows personally.
Rosa wouldn't do something like that.
Primavera's just spouting nice-sounding words. She's probably just controlling us to turn money her way and make a killing.
How dare you? That's unbelievably outrageous.
Well, Kurosaki-san, regardless of whether it's just nice-sounding words or not, I think Madame Rose's ideals are commendable. Because of the times we live in, fellow countrymen should help each other out. I think that sounds splendid. We're merchants. We have to be more clear-headed than anyone else. Like Wang-san said, Madame Rose's ideals are anachronistic. She's turning the pre-war period into an ideal and turning her eyes from reality.
But how can you say that when Rose can see reality, see the future better than anyone else?
There's nothing wrong with having people talk about their ideals. We need people like that. I understand that. However, we merchants protect the lifestyles of our countrymen, and as such, we must look at reality clear-headedly and make rational decisions. So you gotta just go with the most money, right? That's how it is. Face reality, Miss Kurosaki. And also, like, spend the least money, including on your countrymen, right? I'm surprised because they were just basically threatened, right? And they're like, oh well, let's go with the guy that's been threatening us because it'll make us the most money. And then they call that clear-headed, like, are you just gonna ignore the blatant threats? That you just are you gonna ignore that? Okay, cool.
You people...
Claudia gets it, though. They can't measure anything except money. They call it calm rationalism, but that's ridiculous. That's why they could easily sell their country if money was piled in front of them. They can't see the value in things that are priceless. And the main point is their conceit. The idea that... The idea that they're more intellectual than anyone else because of their so-called rational decisions for raising earnings. If money was piled in front of them, they would sell goods to an enemy nation and sell the secrets of their own country as much as they like. They truly believe they can continue doing the same business, even if all of City 23's distribution routes are held by foreigners. So once again, the problem is capitalism. Eat the rich. It's been a while since we said that here, but eat them. That's what they get for acting all intellectual, when the fools can't measure value with anything but money. Merchants are such chumps. He's actually... Huang, you were so correct, actually, in this case. Those guys are chumps. And then he immediately takes it too far, and now I don't agree with you anymore. Did you see that, guys? Did you see the stupid Japanese? Looks like they really thought this was their chance to make it big. Is that what one sounded like before? I think I accidentally changed his voice. Oh. What fools. Whatever happens, they think they alone won't be affected. Those morons would sell the keys to their wives' and daughters' bedrooms if they thought they could earn a little cash. There's thousands and thousands of fools like that around the world. We'll never run out of food. Too bad, Rose-chan. Looks like you were naive after all. You see, unless you tie stupid merchants like this up with money or sticks, they'll sell out their countrymen in a flash. Once I've gained control of all of City 23's business, I'll take everything these fools have. Oh, I can't wait to see the looks on their faces. If I could have a drink and gaze upon that while Rose-chan waits upon me, wouldn't that be just splendid? I just can't wait to see how those fools kneel and apologize to Rose-chan. Also, are you watching this, little May? This is how kings fight. Do you still have so little faith in me after this? It's always nice to end an episode with a good evil laugh. Oh no! We're not ending anything. I missed. I missed, no. Oh yeah, we do need to do Oliver's training montage. But we'll do that next time. Just overwrite that one real quick. Because, yeah, I think that's a great point to end the episode, and I think I'm up to 2 hours now. Because I record these in sections now, it's easier. So I don't 100% know for sure how long an episode's going to be until I edit it all together, but, yeah, should be a decent runtime. So next time is going to be Oliver training montage, whatever else happens, and maybe we'll get to the part where they execute the plan. I don't know that, of course. But, here's hoping. God, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. This is a good episode, I think. Like, the story's really ramping up. I'm having a lot of fun with all the intrigue, you know, and all the characters are so, like, detailed that, you know, 1 second I find myself agreeing with Mong, and the next second he'll say something heinous and I'm like, no, fuck you. And, like, he makes some good points here and there, and at the same time he's also, like, blatantly evil and manipulative, and obviously people are falling for his threats and his lies and his story, but he's really good at spinning it and selling it to people so that you can really get why people go along with him despite him blatantly threatening people. He's really good at putting pressure on people, and it's interesting, it's impressive. You don't... Usually when there's a character kind of like this in media, I feel like, well, I mean, he's so blatantly evil, you know, I don't really get how anyone could roll with that. But because we see, you know, his mindset here and where it comes from, and also we see the tricks he uses, and they're pointed out as being like the tricks, right? Like, oh yeah, he made this up. And here's why it works, even though he made it up. Like, it's really effective, I feel like. I don't know. It's fun to see all the different sort of sides to that whole interaction, I think. Like, here's how the merchants see it, and here's how Wong sees it, and here's what he wants, and here's his ultimate plan, which is to, you know, take all their money and ruin them, basically. It's good. It's good. News just in. Story good. I wouldn't still be reading if it was bad, let's be real. But yeah, I'm having a good time. Alright. On that note, we will be back next week, most likely. Still gonna have, well, no, for now I think I should be able to stay on schedule, and then once mid-August hits, I'll probably be real busy for a bit, so I might just take some time off rather than leaving it, like, uncertain whether there's a new episode or not. I'll have to see. I have to do some planning first, and then I'll know for sure. So for now, just a new episode next week. That's all I need to know. Because there's nothing more going on at the moment for the channel and stuff. But there will be in the future. Obviously, it's just gonna take a bit because I don't have time to do other things. Anyway, I hope you had a good time and enjoyed that episode. I sure did. I hope that the next one will also be great. I'm sure it will be. So I hope you join me for that one too. Also, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, which I already said that, but now I've said it twice. Yeah. Have a good day, week, midweek, weekend, month, season. Have a good everything, you know? Yeah. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.